Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Rob.
And this is Ask Rob and Rob.
Hello everyone and welcome to Ask Rob and Rob, the show where you get your questions in, often property related, and we will give you our best attempt at a good answer. And we have rolled this concept on now for, well, hundreds of episodes. So let's keep this show on the road by reminding you how you can get your questions in to the show.
Yep, so easy. You just have to go to propertyhub.net/ask. And from that page, you can send us a voicemail. You'll find our phone number if you want to go old school, or you can submit a written question for our Sunday Times column. All those methods wrapped up for you in one place at propertyhub.net/ask. And one person who found his way to that page is Charlie.
Rob and Rob. It's Charlie here, long-time diehard listener since 2017. I started at the beginning from episode 1 and have never missed an episode, or a book by Rob D for that matter. I'm currently looking at purchasing my 4th property. I'm aiming to diversify my portfolio by venturing out into the realm of off-plan city centre luxury apartments in Manchester, to be exact. Now, on this journey, I've once again found myself suffering from analysis paralysis, as you guys say. They are big, scary, high-priced developments that come with pushy salespeople, which makes me hesitate and just think, what is the catch? Now, I think I understand the cons that come with off-plan property, such as the risks in delays, deposits, inflated asking prices, etc. But I'm mainly stuck on researching the developers themselves. Now, would you guys be able to tell me how to go about that? I want to know what to look out for. Should I be scrutinizing their public records, or is a simple Google search sufficient? Basically, how do I know when I've researched a developer enough to proceed with my investment? I can't thank you guys enough for the work you do, and it's genuinely changed my life, so please never stop. I look forward to your reply. All the best, lads.
Hey, Charlie, thank you for your question and your commitment to the podcast and the books. That's a long-time listener indeed, 2017. Thank you for keeping with us. All right, I think at the very least we owe you an answer. So let's do it. There's a lot to tackle here, but I think the first thing I want to say is I love the area that you're going for. And the word you've used is luxury as well is encouraging, because Manchester's a big place. And the great thing about Manchester is currently the rental demand is so strong. So there's not enough rental stock to keep up with demand. That's a nice dynamic. And eventually one day that might not continue, but it's been like that for a few years now. And there needs to be a lot built for that to change. So you're off to a good start. I've really liked the area you're picking, but luxury is why I really like the strategy, because something that Rob and I talk about quite often, and we did a few webinars on this recently, is that we look for properties that stand out, and luxury is a way of standing out. So that's the first thing. Make sure you commit to that luxury option. But the challenge is then, am I overpaying? And also, what is luxury? Because lots of people describe their apartments and houses as luxury, and not all are. Well, it'll be obvious. It'll be facilities that just are above and beyond what everyone else is putting out there, and specification. Specification is important, but what I've found with Manchester in particular is it's the facilities that really, really push the market. So you need a good standard kitchen. It needs to look modern. You need nice flooring, all that type of stuff. Of course, the bathroom needs to look really good. But once that box has been ticked, you then need to be looking at concierge. Okay, yeah, that's pretty standard in Manchester, the luxury end. But I've invested in a development that's got a 25-metre pool. It's got a huge luxury gym that competes and I think outperforms a David Lloyd gym. It's that good. It's got an indoor tennis court. It's got a residence lounge and so much more. You get the idea. It's something that really is above and beyond the norm. And that is luxury. Somebody putting in a gym and a concierge, and you look at the size of the gym on the plans and realise it's just going to be very modest, that's not luxury. In fact, these days, that's just, for Manchester at least, standard. So, first of all, make sure it's truly luxury. Next, the way to make sure you're not overpaying is compare it to other luxury products on the market. So, Manchester has stuff that's built, and it has stuff that's luxury on the market already. Go and look at developments like I've described in Manchester that are complete, and look at the pricing for the market right now. So what are they selling for? And then look at the new build market. Is that priced comparable? So look at the price per square foot and say, okay, they're saying this is just as good and just as luxurious. This is already built. are the prices the same? Because if that's being achieved on the market right now, then you can have confidence that that off-plan price is genuine. You're right that some developers will push the prices and overprice developments. At Property Hub Invest, we either drive them right down on the price or just walk away completely if they're deluded on price. That you need to do exactly the same. You need to just walk away or drive them down to the comparables before you go ahead. And finally, you come to the protection of off-plan. You never want to put more than 10% down. You will see developers asking for 20, 30, 40% in some cases I've seen. You find developers who are more than happy with 10%. Go for the 10% option because it's easier to protect a 10% deposit. Now, the exception to the rule here is that if the deposit is being held in escrow, so the developer cannot touch it, then maybe you'll be prepared to venture up to 20%. But what you normally find is developers looking at 20, 30, 40%. The reason they're pushing for that higher amount is they want to use your deposit. And they'll say, oh, it's guaranteed in one way or another. For me, I'm not interested. At Property Hub Invest, we don't touch those deals. We've done hundreds and hundreds of off-plan deals over the years. We've had one that's gone wrong, and that luckily was with a 10% deposit down, and it was protected. If we'd pushed it to 20%, 30%, 40% more, it could have been a disaster. It wasn't great, but it could have been a lot worse. So, Charlie, I've given you a lot to work with there, but don't be put off. It's a great location. I like your idea of going for the luxury end. That if you are stuck and you have more questions, of course, you can come back to Ask Rob and Rob or write to us in the Times. But if you want, reach out to Property Hub Invest. Our team of people there will help you for free. It'll guide you. You don't have to work with us. That's not how we work. You won't find any of the pushy salespeople in our team, that's for sure. So if you want to have a chat with them to understand the Manchester market, because that's an area that we work in as well, then just reach out to us. Search for propertyhub.net/invest.
There you go, Charlie. Comprehensive answer from someone who's done this hundreds and hundreds of times. I hope you found lots of value in that and it helps you out. Let's move on to our next question now from James.
Hi, Rob and Rob. My name's James. I'm calling from London. Long-time listener. I've listened all the way back and love all the content. Really appreciate all the help and advice you've given over the years. Just a quick question on regarding stress test levels. I'm not sure, why is it that higher rate taxpayers have a 145% stress test and basic has 125? What's the thinking behind that? And also, what would be the rate that you tend to find for limited companies? I really appreciate any feedback on this one. And keep up the good work.
Another long-time listener. Love this. Thank you very much, James. And thank you for the question, because it's one I don't think we've ever directly addressed on the podcast. We kind of say, oh yeah, well, the stress test rate for basic rate taxpayers is this and high rate taxpayers is that. But why? We've never said. Well, the answer is that the purpose of this stress test is to make sure that you can afford your mortgage payments, that the rent that the property brings in is sufficient to cover the cost of your mortgage and all your other costs. Basically, they want to make sure that you're not in the situation where you're having to supplement it with your own funds and could potentially get into trouble and not be able to repay your mortgage. And of course, as a higher rate taxpayer, a greater proportion of your income is being taken away in tax. And that is the very simple reason that the stress test rate is higher for higher and additional rate taxpayers. You're not going to end up keeping as much of your income as a basic rate taxpayer would, and therefore they need to test it at a higher percentage to end up in the same place. And wrapped up in that is also the answer to your limited company lending question. Because limited companies, in terms of the corporation tax they pay, is roughly similar to what a basic rate taxpayer would pay, which is why limited company stress test rates tend to be the same as for basic rate taxpayers. So I've just pulled up a few criteria guides from different lenders, just to give an example, because you've said what is the number. There is no one number. Each lender comes up with their own, but they tend to be similar. So I've got Paragon here. The rate for basic rate is 125%. Limited company, also 125%. Higher rate and additional rate, both 140%. Got Barclays. Their rate for basic rate is 125%. Higher and additional, all the way up 160%. They don't provide a figure for limited companies. I don't know if that's because they don't lend to limited companies. That seems unlikely, but for some reason it's not in this particular guide that I'm looking at. And I've also got Shawbrook. They appear to just have one set rate for any type of taxpayer making an individual application, which is 140%, and limited company is lower at 125%. So the basic takeaway is that if you are investing as a limited company, it's going to be easier for you to pass that test because you're tested at the lowest rate. If you want to dig into this further, all this information is online. If you search for the names of different lenders, plus something like stress test or just criteria, you'll tend to find the information. Often they're on the intermediaries section of their website because they don't deal directly with borrowers or don't want to give all this detail directly to borrowers. But it's on there, you can go and find it. But to save yourself some time, it's generally best to just work with a broker because they will know all this stuff already. They will know which lenders are in and out of scope for you based on what you're buying and your setup. And they'll probably be able to produce some illustrations for you easily as well. So James, thank you for the question. Hope that answer helps.
So we are done, but before we go, just a reminder, there's plenty more Property Podcast goodness in your life. We'll be in the Sunday Times this coming Sunday, answering more of your questions. Remember, if you want your question answered at the Times, go to propertyhub.net/ask. So we are done, but don't worry, there's more Property Podcast goodness in your life coming up. Of course, on Thursday, we'll be back with the main event, the Property Podcast. Then on Sunday, we will be in the Sunday Times, where we will be answering your questions in print. And then, of course, we'll loop back here, same time, same place, for Ask Rob and Rob next Tuesday. So until those wonderful events occur, take care, have fun, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.